The first sign of the strange signal came quietly, almost like a whisper in space. On the bridge of the exploration vessel Aurora, Commander Elena Royce stared at the monitors, frowning. The instruments were picking up an energy signature unlike anything humans had ever seen. It was not random. It pulsed with a rhythm that felt almost alive. Scientists aboard were already calling it the heartbeat of something large. Elena tapped her fingers on the console. "Has anyone ever seen anything like this before?" she asked. The communications officer shook his head. "No, Commander. It's not like any natural phenomenon or known alien energy we've cataloged. It's precise, purposeful." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They had trained for first contact with alien life, but this felt different. The signal seemed to reach inside them, tugging at their curiosity and, strangely, their caution. It was almost hypnotic, like the pull of a distant star that promised both wonder and danger. As the Aurora approached the source, the energy became more intense. The sensors showed a massive structure floating in the void, far larger than any human-built ship. Its surface shimmered with colors that shifted in patterns too complex for any human eye to follow. Some of the crew felt a strange calm when they looked at it, as if the vessel itself was trying to communicate through beauty. Dr. Cale Morris, the chief xenobiologist, leaned forward over the monitors. "It's organic," he whispered. "I've never seen anything like it. The surface patterns, the energy pulses, it's like a living organism." Elena frowned. "Are you saying it's alive? Like an animal?" Cale shook his head slowly. "More than that. It's intelligent. I can feel it, almost like it's aware of us." The feeling of being watched grew stronger as the Aurora moved closer. Crew members began reporting minor dizziness, headaches, and a strange sense of obedience that made them follow instructions without question. Elena noticed that Lieutenant Harris, usually brash and confident, was unusually quiet, following every order with perfect precision. "Are you all right, Harris?" Elena asked, concerned. Yes, Commander," he said, his voice flat, almost too calm. Elena's instincts told her something was wrong. She ordered a full scan of the energy signals. The results shocked the crew. The pulses were not just energy, they were chemical signals, pheromones traveling through space in a way no one had thought possible. The signals seemed to influence behavior, subtly nudging emotions, calmness, and compliance. Cale's voice was tense. "If I'm right, this is a queen. A central mind controlling her species using chemical signals. The energy we see is just a manifestation of her biological processes. She's massive, and she's not alone." The realization spread through the crew like wildfire. The humans were looking at a being that could control others not through force but through influence. It was a form of power they had never encountered. A queen whose control could be invisible yet absolute. Before they could prepare further, smaller vessels emerged from the queen's shadow. They moved gracefully, almost like dancers in zero gravity, forming protective formations around her. Some emitted low-frequency signals that enhanced the influence, making the crew of the Aurora feel strangely loyal and peaceful, even as danger approached. Elena clenched her fists. "Everyone stay focused. Remember your training. This isn't a fight we can win with weapons alone. Keep your minds sharp," Cale nodded. "We need to observe, understand, and resist if we can. Her power comes from influence, not brute force. But humans are uniquely creative. If anyone can survive this, it's us." As the Aurora drifted closer to the alien queen, the first wave of crew members reported an almost magical feeling. Their worries faded, replaced with a sense of calm and admiration. Even Elena felt the pull, a subtle urge to trust and obey. She shook her head, forcing herself to focus. She knew instinctively that this was a test of will. The queen itself became visible, towering over the smaller vessels. Its form was both terrifying and mesmerizing. Shimmering exoskeletons reflected light in impossible patterns, and flowing appendages emitted faint glows like bioluminescent rivers in the dark. Even from a distance it exuded power. Its presence was magnetic, drawing attention and bending thought, yet it was not openly hostile. Elena swallowed and addressed her crew. "This is the beginning of something none of us have faced before. We are not just explorers, we are humans. And we have something no queen, no matter how powerful, can fully control. Our mind, our creativity, and our will to survive." With that, the Aurora edged closer to the queen, ready to record, study, and, if necessary, resist the influence that had begun to reach across the stars. Humanity's first encounter with the pheromone-powered alien queen had begun, and no one aboard fully understood the trials that lay ahead. But one thing was clear. Humans were about to discover that even the most beguiling power could not fully contain the spirit of those who refused to surrender their minds. The humans watched, in awe and unease, as the alien queen and her vessels glided through space. From their observation post, they could see smaller colonies near her. Worlds once bustling with human activity now strangely quiet. Communication with some of the colonies had been interrupted, while others transmitted messages that seemed different, calm, orderly, almost unnaturally obedient. Dr. Cale Morris frowned as he analyzed the incoming data. Her influence is spreading faster than we anticipated. It's not violent, at least not yet, but it's subtle. It changes priorities, alters judgment, nudges emotions. Elena Royce paced the bridge. Subtle or not, people are acting differently. Have you noticed how some of the colony's defenses are weaker? Their fleets aren't responding like they should? Kyle nodded. Exactly. The pheromones seem to work across vast distances, not directly but through some kind of resonance. It's like she's planting suggestions in the minds of anyone nearby, influencing trust, obedience, even motivation. The farther you are from her, the weaker the effect, but it still works on the colonies. Reports began arriving from the colonies themselves. Farmers followed schedules they had never had before. Engineers repaired things before anyone ordered them, and pilots flew in precise formations, almost as if they were rehearsing for a performance. There was no panic, no rebellion, but there was also no initiative. Humans were acting like well-trained instruments, efficient but not thinking for themselves. Elena studied the patterns, her worry deepening. She's testing us, she said quietly. The colonies are not destroyed because she doesn't need them destroyed. She wants control, obedience, to see how far she can extend her influence. We need to find a way to stop her before she reaches Earth. Cale rubbed his temple. It's not just about distance. Her pheromones interact with human emotions, memories, and trust. The stronger a person's sense of duty, or the more they rely on teamwork, the more they are affected. But the creative minds, the thinkers, the problem solvers seem less influenced. There's hope. The crew began developing countermeasures. Small devices that could block or filter the pheromones were tested aboard the Aurora. Even with technology, the mental influence was strong. Some crew members struggled to focus on instructions, feeling a pull to trust the alien queen instead of their own judgment. Captain Elena decided to conduct a simulation, testing her crew's ability to resist while performing critical tasks. She was determined to identify who was most resistant and who needed help. Lieutenant Harris, once affected by the subtle influence, now fought against it with determination. The transformation inspired the others. They saw that resistance was possible if the mind stayed disciplined and aware. Meanwhile, in the colonies, small groups of humans began to notice irregularities. A pilot realized his instincts were being guided in ways that didn't match standard procedure. An engineer questioned why a machine had been fixed before any orders were given. Curiosity sparked rebellion, subtle but growing. They didn't yet understand the Queen's influence fully, but their human intuition told them that something was manipulating them. Elena contacted one of the affected colonies. Listen carefully, she said. Your mind is yours. Stay aware. Don't follow instructions blindly, even if they feel right. Record everything unusual. Observe and resist where you can. The colony commander hesitated, then nodded. Understood, Commander. We'll try. Some of the people here are already feeling different, but we'll resist. Kyle observed the readings with excitement. This is exactly what I hoped for. Humans aren't easily controlled. Even under subtle influence, independent thinking can survive. If we can teach it and strengthen it, we might be able to resist her completely. The Queen herself was aware of the humans' attempts to fight back. From her massive vessel, she emitted pulses that increased her influence, testing the limits of human resistance. But the humans, true to their nature, adapted. They changed schedules, developed new routines, and strengthened communication networks to counteract her influence. Elena watched the stars beyond the observation window and felt a mixture of fear and pride. Fear because the alien queen's power was immense, subtle, and far-reaching. Pride because even in the face of a being designed to dominate without force, humans were finding ways to resist. Every small act of awareness, every careful choice was a victory. In the weeks that followed, humans on the colonies and aboard the Aurora began reporting more successes. They found ways to communicate without interference, to plan without being influenced, and to resist the alien queen's attempts to bend their will. The influence of the pheromones was not gone, but it was being challenged by the very thing that made humans unique: their creativity, adaptability, and determination to maintain free thought. The first signs of true resistance were small: a pilot taking an unexpected route, a technician refusing to follow a seemingly perfect suggestion, but they were enough to prove one thing: humans were not passive creatures. Even under the sway of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, they could think, adapt, and survive. Elena knew this was only the beginning. The Queen's influence would spread further, and the challenge would grow. But she also knew that the humans' greatest strength was already showing. It was not their ships, their weapons, or even their technology alone. It was their mind, their ability to question, to create, and to resist even the most subtle attempts to control them. And for the first time since they had detected the alien queen, hope returned to the humans. The humans had learned something crucial: the alien queen's influence could be resisted. The knowledge spread quickly among the colonies and aboard the Aurora. Dr. Cale Morris and Commander Elena Royce worked tirelessly to develop ways to protect minds from her subtle chemical control. Every breakthrough was small but significant. The humans were beginning to understand that the Queen's power was not absolute, and that gave them hope. In one of the colonies, the technicians created the first prototype of a pheromone-blocking device. It emitted a low-frequency field designed to neutralize the chemical signals that the Queen sent through space. The initial tests were promising. Those who stood within the device's field reported a clear mind, a sense of independence returning, and the ability to think critically without interference. Elena watched the test results on the Aurora. "This is it," she said quietly, a mixture of relief and determination in her voice. "This is our way to fight back without violence. If humans can shield their minds, we can resist her influence anywhere." Kyle nodded. "It's only a start. The Queen's control reaches far and her hive network is vast. But humans have something she doesn't expect: creativity, unpredictability, and the ability to adapt quickly. These devices will give us a chance to harness that." Teams were assembled across the colonies to distribute the new devices and train people in their use. At first, there was hesitation. Many had grown used to the sense of calm and certainty the Queen's influence brought, even if it meant losing some freedom of thought. But when people experienced the clarity the devices provided, they realized the difference between controlled obedience and independent thinking. Meanwhile, the Queen continued to expand her presence. Her smaller vessels moved through human space, observing and testing. Some humans tried to resist her influence on their own, relying on mental exercises, memory techniques, and deliberate questioning of every impulse. Those who resisted effectively became leaders, teaching others how to strengthen their minds against the subtle control. Elena organized a series of training programs aboard the Aurora. Crew members learned to recognize the subtle nudges in their behavior, the moments when their thoughts were being guided by the Queen's pheromones. They practiced focusing on their objectives, questioning every instinct, and thinking creatively under pressure. In one session, Lieutenant Harris demonstrated the technique to a group of young officers. "It's like a muscle," he explained. "The more you notice the influence and resist it, the stronger your mind becomes. The Queen can try to guide you, but she can't force you to think against your own judgment." Kyle watched with satisfaction. The Queen's advantage lies in subtlety, but humans excel at adaptation. Every person who learns to resist adds to our collective strength. That's what makes us dangerous to her. The first coordinated attempts to counter her influence began in the colonies. Small teams shielded by the devices started observing the Queen's movements and patterns. They recorded her energy pulses, studied the hive network, and even attempted minor disruptions to test her reactions. Each success, no matter how small, increased confidence. One pilot, who had once been deeply affected by the Queen's presence, managed to guide a fleet past her patrols without being influenced. Another technician discovered a way to temporarily disrupt the smaller vessel's chemical emissions. Each human achievement proved that the alien Queen's power could be challenged through intelligence and ingenuity, not brute force. Elena felt a renewed sense of determination. "We are not just defending ourselves," she told the crew. We are showing the galaxy what humans are capable of. We adapt, we create, we survive, and no matter how powerful a being may seem, we will always find a way to protect our freedom. The Queen, aware of these small rebellions, increased her attempts to influence humans. She sent pulses that were stronger, more complex, and harder to resist. But the humans, true to their nature, adjusted. They upgraded their devices, coordinated strategies, and used unpredictability to counter her influence. The very thing that made humans unique, their creativity, was becoming their greatest weapon. By the end of the month, the colonies that had adopted the devices and training were showing remarkable progress. People moved with confidence, made independent decisions, and resisted the alien queen's subtle guidance. It was clear that humans were not merely surviving. They were learning to fight back in their own way, using minds as their armor and strategy as their weapon. Elena stood on the bridge of the Aurora, gazing at the stars where the queen's vessels moved like shadows. She knew the challenges ahead would be greater, that the queen would continue to test their limits and that danger would escalate. But for the first time, she felt that humanity had a real chance, not just to survive, but to overcome. Humans had discovered a truth that no alien, no matter how powerful, could take away. Their strength was in their minds, their unity, and their ability to imagine solutions no one else could. And with that knowledge, the next phase of resistance was already beginning. Elena and her crew knew that understanding the alien queen was only the first step. To truly resist her, they had to get closer, to see how her hive operated and where her influence came from. They began planning small, precise missions, sending teams to scout her vessels and gather intelligence. Each mission was risky, but the humans were determined. Fear alone would not stop them. The first mission involved a small team led by Lieutenant Harris. They boarded a stealth shuttle, equipped with pheromone-blocking devices, and approached one of the Queen's outer vessels. From a distance, it looked like a glittering, living crystal, with pulsating lights that seemed to respond to their movements. Every member of the team felt the Queen's subtle pull, but their devices and training kept their minds focused. Kyle monitored the mission from the Aurora. "Remember, observe first," he instructed. "Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Every piece of information you gather is more valuable than a confrontation." The shuttle glided alongside the vessel, cameras recording every angle. They noticed that the Queen's smaller drones moved in intricate patterns, almost like choreographed dancers maintaining communication through faint energy pulses. It became clear that her control was networked. Disrupt the network and her influence weakened. Harris whispered into the comms, "I can see the connections. If we can interfere with these signals, we might give humans an advantage." Back on the Aurora, Elena felt a surge of pride. Humans were doing what no alien could expect. They were analyzing, adapting, and finding solutions where others might panic. The mission showed that intelligence and careful observation were just as powerful as weapons. As the teams returned from their first missions, the information they brought back was invaluable. They mapped energy nodes, tracked the Queen's movement patterns, and noted vulnerabilities in her hive network. Kale began working on ways to exploit these findings, designing strategies that combined technology with human intuition. The humans did not stop at observation. Small daring experiments followed. They tested ways to temporarily disrupt her chemical signals, sending decoy drones into her hive network. Each success, though minor, built confidence. Humans were learning to strike where it mattered most, using cleverness rather than strength. One team encountered a vessel that emitted unusually strong pheromones. Even with devices, the subtle influence pressed against their minds, urging calm and obedience. But they had trained for this. Using breathing techniques and focusing on logical tasks, they completed their survey and returned safely. The experience showed them that human perseverance could overcome even intense psychological influence. Elena addressed the crew, her voice steady and inspiring. "These missions are more than reconnaissance. They are proof that humans adapt. We learn, we survive, and we can challenge powers that seem impossible. Every observation, every experiment brings us closer to reclaiming our freedom." The Queen, sensing interference in her network, began sending larger patrols. Her drones moved faster, responded more aggressively to intrusions, and adjusted their patterns. But humans anticipated her reactions. They changed tactics, using unpredictability to their advantage. By thinking creatively, they stayed one step ahead, proving that no single method of control could contain human ingenuity. The colonies joined in as well. Humans on distant worlds began to conduct small operations under guidance from the Aurora. Teams disrupted supply routes of the Queen's drones, set up safe zones shielded from pheromone influence, and developed communication networks that the Queen could not penetrate. Humanity's cooperation across space became their greatest strength. During one mission, Harris and his team discovered an energy node that controlled a large portion of the Hive's drones. They transmitted the location back to Kale, who immediately began designing a device to temporarily block the node's signals. The team celebrated, knowing that even small victories mattered. Each success, no matter how small, was proof that the alien Queen's control could be challenged. Elena watched as humans on the colonies and aboard the Aurora worked together. The courage and ingenuity she saw were more powerful than any weapon. The Queen's presence was vast, her influence subtle and dangerous, yet humans refused to be passive. Their ability to think, adapt, and collaborate was slowly turning the tide. At the end of another long day, Elena stood on the bridge, staring at the distant Hive network. The Queen's vessels shimmered like stars in motion, her power formidable. Yet for every pattern she created, humans found a way to anticipate, respond, and adapt. The Aurora and her allies had shown that even the most intimidating adversary could be countered with intelligence, strategy, and determination. Humans had taken the first real steps beyond survival. They were no longer just resisting influence, they were actively challenging it, learning the Queen's strengths and weaknesses, and proving that the spirit of humanity could endure against even the most extraordinary threats. The humans had grown stronger, more confident. After weeks of careful observation and daring missions, they now had enough knowledge to challenge the alien Queen on a larger scale. The Aurora became the center of planning, with commanders and scientists working together to coordinate the colonies. The humans were no longer reacting. They were preparing to take the initiative. Elena called a meeting with her senior officers. "We've learned how her Hive network works," she said, pointing at the star map dotted with energy nodes. "We know how her pheromones influence humans, and we've seen how our devices can block them. Now it's time to combine everything we've learned into a coordinated counter-strategy." Kale nodded. "We've already trained teams across multiple colonies. People know how to resist her influence and use the devices effectively. The key now is synchronization. We strike simultaneously at weak points in her network, disrupt her control, and reclaim freedom for the colonies." Teams across the colonies prepared for the first large-scale operation. Humans moved with precision, using the information from the Aurora to avoid detection and maximize effectiveness. Each small success from earlier missions became part of a larger strategy. They would weaken the Queen's control without direct confrontation, relying on intelligence, coordination, and human ingenuity. Lieutenant Harris led one of the operational squads. Their mission was to disable an energy node controlling a sector of drones that patrolled a nearby colony. Harris and his team navigated through dangerous space currents, staying within the protective field of their pheromone-blocking devices. Every moment required focus, creativity, and careful decision-making. One wrong move could alert the Queen or endanger the team. Meanwhile, Kyle and the engineers aboard the Aurora monitored the Hive network. As Harris's team approached the node, the signals from the Queen's drones grew stronger, more insistent. They were subtle pressures, nudging the team to slow down, hesitate, even reconsider their plan. But the humans resisted, relying on their training and trust in each other. Harris reached the node and activated the disruptor. A soft pulse spread through the Hive network, temporarily cutting off control of the nearby drones. For the first time, the humans on that sector acted freely. They realized that they could move, choose, and resist influence without fear. It was a small but powerful victory. Elsewhere, similar operations were taking place simultaneously. Human teams disrupted multiple nodes, coordinated communication channels, and created safe zones for colonies previously under subtle influence. Each success strengthened human confidence and showed the alien Queen that her control was not absolute. Elena observed the progress from the Aurora. "Every node we disable, every colony we free, proves what we've always known," she said. "Humans adapt, think creatively, and never give up. Our minds are stronger than any influence she can send." The Queen responded to the disruption. She sent pulses stronger than before. attempting to reassert control over the drones and colonies. But the humans had anticipated this. They used unpredictability, flexible tactics, and decentralized decision-making. By acting creatively and independently, they countered her most aggressive attempts. Kale smiled as he watched the readings. She can control her network, but she cannot predict human thought. Every clever maneuver, every new idea makes her influence weaker. Humans are not just surviving. We are proving that intelligence and ingenuity can overcome even the most powerful control. By the end of the operation, multiple colonies were operating independently again. People moved with purpose, made decisions freely, and communicated securely across vast distances. The humans' coordinated efforts had not destroyed the Queen, but they had disrupted her power and reclaimed autonomy. Elena allowed herself a rare moment of pride. "This is what it means to be human," she said quietly. "We face challenges that seem impossible. We learn, we adapt, we work together, and we prove again and again that no force, no matter how subtle or strong, can completely take away our freedom." The Queen's presence remained in space, vast and imposing. Her vessels shimmered like living stars, and her influence still reached far. But the humans had taken the first real steps to push back. They had turned the tide in their favor, showing that courage, intelligence, and creativity could challenge even a seemingly unstoppable force. For the first time, the humans were not just resisting, they were winning. And that victory was born not from weapons, but from the human mind, its strength, flexibility, and refusal to be subdued. The Queen's presence had grown stronger, her influence stretching across multiple sectors of human space. She had begun sending larger fleets and stronger energy pulses, trying to regain control over the colonies. Yet the humans were ready. Their coordination, intelligence, and determination had reached a new level. The time for a final confrontation had come. Elena gathered her officers on the Aurora. "This is it," she said. "We know how she operates, we know her strengths and weaknesses, and we've proven that humans can resist her influence. Now we have to act decisively. We are going to sever her control over the hive." Kale pointed at the star map. "The Queen's network depends on several main nodes that transmit her chemical signals across space. If we can disrupt these nodes at the same time, we can temporarily weaken her influence on all affected colonies." Harris and his team, along with several other squads, prepared for the operation. Each shuttle was equipped with upgraded pheromone-blocking devices and disruption tools, designed to disable the nodes without destroying them. The goal was not to fight the Queen directly with weapons, but to neutralize her network and give humans back their freedom. As they approached the first node, the humans felt the Queen's presence more intensely than ever. It was not violent, but a persistent, subtle pressure on their thoughts. The urge to pause, obey, and hesitate was strong, yet they remembered their training. Each person focused on their mission, repeating mental exercises to reinforce clarity and control. Harris maneuvered the shuttle close to the node and activated the disruptor. A pulse radiated outward, cutting off the influence of the Queen's network over the nearby drones. The effect was immediate. Drones that had previously moved in perfect coordination began to slow and scatter. Human colonies, previously under subtle control, regained independence. The team transmitted confirmation back to the Aurora, and the other squads began activating their disruptors in coordination. Kale monitored the network. "It's working," he said. "Every node that goes offline weakens her influence. She cannot control everything at once." "Humans are taking back their space," the Queen responded, sensing the disruption. She sent powerful pulses toward the human ships, attempting to reassert control. The humans felt the pressure, but their devices, training, and mental focus held strong. Instead of panic, the humans acted with creativity and coordination, predicting her reactions and moving in ways she could not anticipate. One squad encountered unexpected resistance when a secondary node emitted an intense signal. The humans adapted quickly. Instead of retreating, they altered their approach, using the node's energy patterns against itself to temporarily neutralize its output. The Queen's influence faltered, giving the team the chance to complete their mission. Elena watched the operation unfold from the Aurora. Every successful disruption, every colony regaining autonomy strengthened the human position. They had proven that strategy, intelligence, and determination could challenge even the most formidable alien control. Harris and his team completed their part of the operation and returned to the fleet. "We did it," he said, smiling despite exhaustion. "We've taken back entire sectors. She can't control them anymore." Kale analyzed the network one final time. The Queen is still powerful, but her hive is fragmented. Humans are acting freely again, thinking, creating, and cooperating. This is the moment where human ingenuity wins. The Queen, though vast and imposing, could no longer dominate the humans. Her influence, once subtle and irresistible, had been countered by human intelligence, creativity, and courage. She remained a presence in space, a reminder of the challenge humanity had faced, but she no longer held control. Elena allowed herself a moment of relief. "This is what we've been working toward," she said. "Humans cannot be fully controlled. We can resist, adapt, and overcome even forces that seem unstoppable." Across the liberated colonies, humans celebrated in small, quiet ways. They repaired infrastructure, communicated freely, and returned to their work with renewed purpose. The subtle fear that had hung over them for weeks was gone. They had survived the Queen's influence and learned to protect themselves against future threats. In the Aurora, Elena addressed her crew. "This victory is not just about survival. It is about proving the strength of humanity. We faced a being designed to control and dominate, and we overcame it using our minds, our creativity, and our courage. That is who we are. That is what makes us human." For the first time since the Queen had appeared in human space, the stars seemed brighter. The threat was still there, but humans were stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. They had faced the most subtle and formidable control imaginable, and emerged victorious. Humanity had won, not by destroying, but by understanding, adapting, and refusing to surrender their minds. Their ingenuity, resilience, and determination had turned the tide. The alien Queen remained a force to reckon with. But humans had proven a truth no power could erase. The human mind, once determined, cannot be enslaved. The alien Queen's vessels hovered silently in the distant sectors, no longer threatening human colonies. Her influence, once a subtle and constant pressure on human minds, had been broken. The humans had regained freedom, not through brute force, but through intelligence, courage, and creativity. Across the stars, humans could think, act, and communicate without interference. Elena watched the reports come in from every colony. Families and workers, once subdued by the Queen's pheromones, were returning to their routines with clarity and confidence. Pilots flew safely, engineers repaired critical systems, and communities shared information freely. Even the smallest colonies had discovered ways to continue resisting future attempts at influence. The spirit of independence was stronger than ever. Dr. Cale Morris joined Elena on the bridge of the Aurora. "We did more than survive," he said. "We've proven that humans can resist forces no other species might endure. The Queen underestimated us, assuming subtle control was enough. She didn't account for our adaptability, creativity, or cooperation." Elena nodded. "She thought obedience would make us weak, but it only strengthened our determination. Humans do not yield when their freedom is threatened. We think, we plan, and we act. That is our strength." Teams of scientists and engineers continued to monitor the Queen's network. Though her presence remained in space, the humans had learned to study her, understand her patterns, and prepare for any new threats. Their devices were upgraded, their training refined, and their confidence renewed. Humans were ready for whatever challenge might come next. Across the liberated colonies, the human spirit was visible in every action. Children played freely under skies previously tense with unease. Farmers returned to their fields, rebuilding crops and sharing techniques. Engineers and inventors collaborated, developing new technology to ensure colonies could thrive even under the harshest conditions. The experience with the Queen had taught humans an important lesson. Intelligence, adaptation, and unity were far more powerful than any threat. On one colony, Lieutenant Harris watched a group of young cadets practicing maneuvers in simulation pods. "They've learned more than strategy," he said. "They've learned to trust their minds and each other. That is something the Queen could never control." Elena stood beside him, gazing at the stars. "It's remarkable," she said. "Even when faced with a being that could influence our thoughts, we adapted. We worked together. We never gave up. That is what makes humans special." The Queen's vessels, once so commanding and beautiful, now seemed distant and less intimidating. Humans no longer feared them. They observed, studied, and planned, confident that no subtle influence could stop them. Every human action now carried proof of their resilience. Kale smiled, reviewing data from the colonies. "We've done more than protect ourselves," he said. "We've created a system to respond to future threats, even ones we cannot yet imagine. Humanity has learned to defend its freedom with intelligence and collaboration, not just strength." "That is victory," Elena addressed her crew. "Remember this moment," she said. "We faced a force designed to control us without a fight. Yet we succeeded. Not through weapons alone, but through thinking, understanding, and courage. Every colony that now thrives, every individual who acts freely, is proof that humanity cannot be dominated." For the first time, the Aurora crew felt true relief. The months of tension, strategy, and careful resistance had paid off. Their minds were free, their colony safe, and their confidence stronger than ever. Humanity had faced a seemingly insurmountable challenge and emerged wiser, stronger, and united. Even in space, humans celebrated in subtle ways. Ships performed synchronized maneuvers in the void, a quiet demonstration of coordination and freedom. Colonies transmitted messages of thanks and pride to the Aurora and the fleet, acknowledging that courage and intelligence had reclaimed their autonomy. Elena stood on the bridge, looking at the distant shimmer of the Queen's vessels. "We've learned something essential," she said softly. "Even when faced with the most subtle, powerful influence, humanity can prevail. Our minds, our creativity, and our determination are stronger than any control. We are free, and we will remain free." The stars stretched endlessly, vast and mysterious. Humanity had discovered that no challenge, no matter how extraordinary, could overcome the ingenuity, unity, and resilience of their species. The alien queen remained in the distance, but she was no longer a threat. Humans had reclaimed their place among the stars, stronger and wiser than before. As Elena and her crew prepared to continue their journey, one thought remained clear. The greatest power in the universe was not size, strength, or beauty, it was the human mind. And as long as humans continued to think, create, and adapt, no force could ever enslave them. Humanity had not only survived, they had triumphed. And the stars, vast and full of mystery, were theirs to explore, learn from, and protect.